What if one drunken mistake didn't ruin your life, but uncovered a truth powerful enough to rewrite destiny? Before you dive into this shocking mystery thriller love story, make sure to subscribe to this channel because the next twist might be the one you never saw coming. On the night when the city drowned beneath a curtain of cold rain and neon lights blurred like tears across the sky, Alina Rehan stumbled out of a bar she had never visited before, her vision spinning, her thoughts fractured, and her heart shattered by a betrayal she hadn't yet fully understood. But fate, dark, twisted, and strangely merciful, was already rearranging the pieces of her life, pushing her toward a destiny she would have never chosen, but would soon fight to protect. And as she staggered into the street, clutching her broken sandal and muttering nonsense about how life doesn't come with a rewind button, a sleek black car stopped abruptly before her, the tinted windows sliding down to reveal the stoic, unreadable face of Zayn Malik, the ruthless, cold-eyed CEO whose name alone could silence boardrooms and terrify rivals, but whose heart, unknown to the world, carried scars deeper than any enemy could carve. And when he stepped out of the car, rain soaking into his tailored suit, he looked at her with a strange mixture of annoyance, curiosity, and a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years, recognition, though he couldn't place why. Alina, too drunk to understand consequences, grabbed his collar and slurred, "Your face looks like trouble," before passing out completely, collapsing into his arms as if her fragile world had finally found a place to rest. And even though everyone expected Zayn to be a man of ice, he sighed deeply, scooped her into his arms, and ordered his driver to head straight to his penthouse, unaware that this ordinary night would unravel secrets buried 12 years ago, secrets involving missing persons, hidden inheritances, and a conspiracy formed by shadows desperate to keep the truth buried forever. When Alina woke hours later in a luxurious bedroom with golden curtains, marble floors, and a view of the sleeping city, her head throbbed, but not as much as her shock when she realized she had somehow managed to cut through the CEO's expensive shirt, now resting on the floor like a crime scene. And when she heard footsteps approaching, panic surged through her as if she were a trapped bird, fluttering madly against invisible bars. But instead of anger, Zayn simply leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, an amused expression breaking through his usually cold exterior, saying, "So, you cut my shirt. Most people beg me not to cut them out of my life." And she stared at him, unsure if she should run, apologize, or prepare a will. But the strangest part wasn't that he wasn't angry, it was the way he watched her like she was a puzzle piece he had been searching for, a piece connected to a past he thought he had lost forever. Embarrassed, Alina tried to explain she had been upset because her boyfriend had cheated on her, but Zayn raised a brow and said, "No boyfriend deserves your tears," in a tone so soft it startled even him, as if some buried instinct had guided his words. And before she could leave, he insisted on driving her home, not out of kindness, but because something about her didn't add up. Her necklace, a small crescent moon pendant, triggered a memory of a girl from long ago who vanished under suspicious circumstances, a girl connected to the biggest tragedy of his youth. But he kept silent, choosing instead to observe her, waiting for fate to reveal its next clue. Over the following days, their paths crossed again, coincidentally, when Alina applied for a job at Malik Enterprises. And instead of being dismissed like any candidate lacking an elite background, she was hired directly by the CEO, much to the confusion of the entire company. For Zayn couldn't explain why he was drawn to her, except for the nagging feeling that she wasn't just a stranger he found drunk in the rain, but someone whose existence had always been intertwined with his own, like twin threads destined to meet no matter how violently life tried to tear them apart. As Alina adjusted to her new job, strange incidences began. Files disappearing, someone stalking her at night, whispers in the office about her being chosen for reasons nobody understood. And then one evening, she found a torn photograph hidden in a company archive, a photograph showing little Zayn smiling beside a young girl wearing the same crescent moon pendant she now carried. And when she confronted Zayn, trembling, demanding answers, he stared at the picture for a long moment before whispering, "This girl, she saved my life once, but she vanished before I could ever thank her." And Alina's heart raced because suddenly fragmented memories she had suppressed for years surfaced. Memories of escaping a burning orphanage, of being rescued by a boy whose name she never learned, and of that same boy giving her a pendant as a promise that one day I'll find you again. Overwhelmed, she fled from Zane's office, convinced destiny was playing a cruel joke. But fate wasn't done unraveling the truth yet, for that very night, the man who had cheated on her, Rohan, showed up, beaten, terrified, begging her to leave the city because someone dangerous was hunting her, someone who didn't want her past uncovered. And before he could say more, a masked figure attacked them, injuring Rohan severely and whispering to Alina, "You should have remained lost." But Alina, fueled by fear and confusion, managed to escape and ran straight to the only person she felt could protect her, Zane. When she burst into his penthouse sobbing, bruised, terrified, Zane held her with a fierce protectiveness that surprised both of them, whispering, "No one will touch you while I'm alive." And for the first time in years, he felt alive, not as a CEO, not as a man of power, but as someone who finally had something or someone worth protecting. Determined to uncover the truth, Zane launched a private investigation and soon discovered a chilling secret. Alina was the rightful heir to a massive trust fund her parents had left behind before they were killed in an orchestrated accident, a tragedy linked to the same people who destroyed Zane's family years ago, meaning the conspiracy wasn't random, it was deeply personal to both of them, and they were connected by a thread of blood, betrayal, and destiny that had been woven long before they met. As the threats intensified, Zane insisted Alina move in with him, for safety, though deep inside he knew the real reason was the fear of losing her all over again. And nights in the penthouse grew heavy with unspoken emotions, stolen glances, and the kind of tension that comes from shared trauma and forbidden longing. And one night, when Alina broke down remembering bits of her childhood, Zane held her so tightly she could feel his heartbeat racing like a storm, and he whispered, "I lost you once, I won't lose you again," leaving her stunned, breathless, and unable to deny the truth blooming between them. But the greatest twist came when Zane's private investigator captured the masked attacker and unmasked him. It was none other than Zane's own uncle, a man who had orchestrated the fire that killed Alina's parents and nearly killed her and Zane as children, all to seize control of both families' wealth. And when confronted, the uncle laughed coldly, saying, "If she lives, everything you've built falls apart," revealing that Alina's survival and reunion with Zane was the final key in exposing his crimes. Enraged, Zane nearly lost control, but Aluna, wounded yet brave, stepped forward and declared, "You destroyed my family, but you won't destroy who I am." And for the first time, Zane saw not the drunken girl from that rainy night, but a woman forged from fire and survival, and his admiration deepened into something he could no longer deny. Days later, as the investigation dismantled the uncle's empire, Zane shocked the world by announcing a sudden engagement, not for business, not for politics, but for love, declaring, "I'm marrying the woman who saved my life twice, once as a child and once now." And though Alina protested at first, overwhelmed by the speed of everything, Zane simply said, "You came into my life in chaos, but you brought me peace I never knew I needed." And when he placed the ring on her finger, she felt destiny finally settling into place like a puzzle solved at last. Their wedding became the final blow to the enemies who wanted them destroyed, and on the night of their vows, Zane whispered against her forehead, "You cut my clothes that night, but you stitched my life back together." And Alina laughed through tears, knowing that their love wasn't born from perfection, but from survival, fate, and the kind of connection that even darkness couldn't sever. And as the city lights glowed beneath them like scattered stars, they stood united, two souls once lost, now found, married not just by accident, by destiny, rewriting a story that began with drunken chaos, but ended with a love strong enough to heal the wounds of a lifetime.